Rocky Tiger here, coming at you from the BeyondVanilla server with another episode of fun goodness. Please excuse the derpiness over there behind me, but today is a server administration day. Super fun, right? I know, it's the thing that everyone wants to know. How is it running a server, especially in 1.14? Well, today I am going to show you a bit of some of the behind the scenes stuff that I've been working on for the server and to improve the gameplay experience for all of my fellow Beyonders here. First things first is we are going to prune the end. That's right, we are going to prune the end dimension. The end dimension is a wonderful, wonderful place full of some of the best items in the game, shulker boxes and elytra, but unfortunately neither one of those items are replenishable or farmable without using duplication exploits. So you could say I have a vested interest selling both shulker boxes and elytra over at the rocket shop to make sure that these are easy to access. And it would be true, but it's also good to let players go and find their own and to get all of the rest of the loot from all of the end cities, because as you can see, I've sold quite a few shulker boxes and I've sold more than a few elytra as well. So it's an important part of keeping the server going and giving players an opportunity as they join to go and get their own elytra. It's just one of those things that you really should do. So we're going to go ahead and, through the magic of video editing, hop over onto the server console so you guys can see what it actually means when I say prune the end dimension. Alright, so the very first thing that we are going to do is hop over onto our server console, and we are over here in the Files folder. And you'll notice here that we have 3 different folders for BeyondVanilla Season 2. We have the Overworld, we have the Nether, and we have the End. This is because we run our server on Spigot, which splits up the different dimensions into their own separate folders. This is actually very useful because it also means that each one of these different dimensions has its own set of game rules, which means that we can adjust things depending on what the different dimension that the player is in. For us, with 1.14 being as buggy and laggy as it was, we at first had keep inventory set to on during the end dimension because people were literally glitching off the side. The very first portal that we traveled through after you defeat the Ender Dragon actually spat us right off the side of a about 16 by 16 island and would kind of catapult players into the void. So if we hadn't had keep inventory on, it would have been in a big mess, and I actually had to pop into there in creative mode to be able to spread that island out or build that island out so that people could actually go exploring in the end dimension. Otherwise, I think the only other option would have been to resummon the Ender Dragon and try and kill it again and hope that we would get a different location to pop out of afterwards. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and we're going to come into the end dimension because that's the one that we're getting rid of stuff, and we're going to go into here into this top folder that's DIM1. Then we're going to pop down into region files, and you'll notice that this whole folder is just chock full of all the region files for the entire end dimension. But we are only interested in keeping 4 of them, and the 4 that we are interested in keeping are going to be -1, -1, -1, 0, 0, -1, and 0, 0. We're going to get rid of everything except for those 4 files. What those 4 files are the region data that actually are the 4 different data points or regions that make up the main end island. So you can prune the outer islands without touching the main central island. So if you've built something like an Ender like I've built in BeyondVanilla server, we can keep that safe. We don't end up resummoning the Ender Dragon. Any sort of builds on that main island are completely intact after we're finished pruning it, and there will be no problems, but yet all of everything else will get regenerated or replenished, leaving lots and lots of shulker boxes and elytra and end cities for all the players to raid. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and delete all of these files. And that is it. We have successfully pruned our end dimension, except for this one file that for some reason didn't delete, but there we go. So at the end, again, all you want to have remaining are -1, -1, -1, 0, 0, -1, and 0, 0. And again, I want to say one other thing before you even start doing this. Make sure that you have created a backup of your world. The last thing that you want to do is accidentally delete something that you don't want to delete. Another thing that you should do is there are lots of tools out there. If someone has built a base or if someone has built a farm somewhere not anywhere in those 4 region files, go use one of the tools out there to figure out which region files that particular base is in so that you don't delete those files as well. When you're pruning the end, just make a notepad or an Excel document where you can keep a list of the files that you need to save and that you don't want to delete, because otherwise you're going to have a very unhappy player on your hand. But now you're going to pop back over to the server. Alright, fun times, right? Lots of different files and folders that you need to go and clear out. And if anyone is running their own server or running their own world, even if it's single player and they're looking at how to do this, there are lots of other tutorials out there. This is just kind of me showing how I manage different parts of the administration side of BeyondVanilla server. The next thing that I want to show you is something else that I've been working on, and that is getting a custom player head store kind of thing in the server. A lot of the stuff in the server is actually inspired by the Hermitcraft server, and one of the things that some of the players had been asking for was a way of purchasing each other's player heads, and so we built the derpiest store imaginable to host our player head shop type of situation that we have going on here. So this is going to change. This is just a place that I can hold this guy here, the head trader, who doesn't have his name this time. That's interesting. He's supposed to have a name floating above his head. This is our head trader. He is a villager that is broken again. That is really annoying. I have fixed this. I don't know if this is going to do this every single time. That... I wonder if it's because he doesn't have a workstation that he turned back into a nitwit with no trades, because he's supposed to be, I think, a librarian. So we're going to have to look at this and see if we can fix this. And we're going to fix this by killing him and taking his unemployed villager's head. So he's an unemployed villager, not a nitwit. Alright. Alright, so to do this, we're going to hop over into creative mode, and we are going to give ourselves a command block, because we need a command block to summon the villager, and we also need a button so that we can run that command block. So we're going to go ahead and pop our command block down here. We'll go ahead and slap our button on here, and we're going to input a custom summon command. Now what this command is a modified version of Exhumavoid's Gem Villagers head trader, player head trader function. So if you go on to vanillatweaks.net, you'll see that there is a mod called Gem Villagers, and if you go and open up that mod, you will see there is eventually you'll find a file that is the Gem Villagers or the player head trader villager, and so I took all of that code and copied it and modified it so it would have players from the BeyondVanilla server instead, and so that's what we're doing here, is inputting this. And now when we hit this button, this librarian pops in, and he has different BeyondVanilla players' heads with all of their names on there as well. Now, this is not all of our players on the server. I haven't finished this yet. This is all work in progress, which is why if you scroll down, you'll see we've got Biffa, Stress Monster, Cub Fan ZF, Joe Hills, Cub, Wells Knight, I think that's Corrales, False Symmetry, Hypno, Vintage Beef, B-Dubs, Tango, and Grian, Iscal, and Zombie Cleo, all there at the bottom. Now, this guy's supposed to stay as a librarian. He has no AI, he has nothing, he won't even fall to the ground when we get rid of the ground there, but for some reason he turned back into an unemployed villager, which I think might be because he did not have a workstation. So I think if we stick a workstation there, he should stay as a librarian. But again, this is all trial and error because there is nothing, no sort of tutorial about how to do this. The actual player head vanilla tweaks data pack does not work in 1.14. When you try and use the data pack or try and summon in that villager, the gym villager, using the function, it doesn't work. What happens is the villager gets summoned in, and all that you can do is try and open his trade, and it'll immediately close the trade. So you'll get a flash of the trade UI that'll open, and then it'll close again, and it'll open, and it'll close again. And my best guess is that it's because the villager doesn't actually have a profession. It's just supposed to be a nitwit that you're supposed to be able to trade with, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work in 1.14.3. So I went into the code and I went into the custom summon and I changed it so that it would summon a villager with a profession, in this case a librarian. And as you can see, now we're able to find all of the different heads to trade with. However, as you also saw, he turned back into a nitwit because he was unemployed. Now, that was kind of annoying. So what we're going to do here, you see it's 1 emerald per head. We're going to go ahead and also we're going to give ourselves an emerald, just the one, so we can trade with him, because I know that could also be a thing. Now he has a trade, which means that he's locked. He should be locked as a librarian now. And with the lectern there, he should be like doubly locked as a librarian. So let's hope that he stays with this profession, because that's what we want him to do. We want him to be a librarian. That's what the summoned village with the command is, to summon this villager with that trade. So that's what we're gonna try and see if he stays put. If he doesn't, then it's just gonna keep on taking some additional tweaks. Villager mechanics are different in 1.14 than they are in previous versions. It's a really simple tweak to do if anyone else is interested in learning how to do it. All you need to do is go to MC Stacker with the code and look at the code to try and summon a custom villager, as opposed to the villagers that Exuma actually has. You can just port over the rest of the code. It's a really, really simple thing, but I'll try and go into a little bit more of the detail real quick. This just to try and clear up exactly what I'm saying. Alright, so this is the entirety of the code and command to summon this custom villager. Most of this is all just the details on what particular head you are trying to purchase. So all of these different random numbers, we'll go ahead and we'll just grab this one. So this one we are using as the buy. So what the villager is buying, well, he is buying 1 emerald, that's the exchange. And what is he selling? Well, this particular trade is a player head. He's selling 1 of them, and it has special tags. The tag is a display in text for the player's name, that's sheep. And then you have the skull owner, and this is the actual data for the owner of that skull. That's sheep's basically the Minecraft user ID code for, hey, yeah, this is the guy whose head we're going after. And then you have properties, textures, and the value for that texture, which comes all the way down to here. And so that is the code that shows which texture we're going after. That's how you get Sheep's particular texture for his head. So all of that is just to show what the trade is and what the trade, like what you're purchasing and what you're purchasing it for. You can also see that it's got some other stuff that's in here. The entirety of this trade is this, from this point here all the way down to here. So it's set to not give you any XP for completing this trade. Normal villager traders will give you XP points for trading with them. The number of times that this trade can be completed, which is set to, what is this? 2,147,483,647. That's just the max that you can set a number of times that this trade can be completed before a villager would need to try and restock. This way we'll never run out, because if you go and buy 2 billion of your own head, first of all, I want to know how you got 2 billion emeralds, and second of all, you've got more problems than I ever thought you ever had before. So all of this are for all of the different Beyonders, and in some cases you'll see Joe Hills is down here. This is all just so that you can add in all of those different trades. What we're really interested in, however, is this stuff up here. Is this part of the code, that section right there. This is the part that I had to change in order for this data pack or for this summon to work. This is the part that I had to tweak from Exuma's pack itself. I was going to say his vanilla pack, the standard one that you can get off of Vanilla Tweaks. It would have summoned a villager in, but the way that villagers have changed, there is a difference between how this whole part of code works. I think the part is right here with the villager data section. So prior to this, it may have said profession 1, which would be any number of the old professions that a villager would have, just the way that they naturally spawned in. And nowadays it says profession Minecraft librarian, type Minecraft desert. That's why the librarian that popped up in there was wearing the clothing from a desert biome villager or village. So this is the part that needed to get changed. So in order to get this particular part of the code, I went over to MC Stacker. So it's mcstacker.net for Minecraft 1.14, and had to go in and click here because I want to do a summon. So I'm making a custom summon command and filter it down to a villager. So now we have the entity that we're summoning is a villager. I wanted to set no gravity to false. I don't want him to float away. I don't know if that's what it does or not, but that's just how I'm setting it to. I wanted him to be silent. I don't want him to be invulnerable, so I just leave that one alone. And if I wanted to have him have a custom name, then I would type in, say, the head trader, because that's what he is. And now that'll give this villager a special name, which I can also make color. So I could say, hey, I want his name to pop up in blue, and I want it to be bold. So now it'll pop up as bold. We don't need to worry about any of this. And most of this, one thing that we do want to do is we want to make sure that he has no AI. We don't want him running around or anything like that. We'll set can pick up loot to false as well, so he won't accidentally pick up anything if you drop it in front of him. So all of that gives us this command output, which, as you can see, looks very, very similar to what I already had. The difference is that I have can pick up loot in here, and I have a custom name with the color and the text type. But then that villager data is still the same thing. The difference is this one is also an armorer. You can change that by going down here into profession, where I just set it to a librarian because I thought that made the most sense. And then you can change the type. So we could say that I want to have a snow or a snow biome villager. So then he'd have that blue and white kind of clothing or color pattern. Then you go down here into trades, and this is where you would add all of the other trades that you would want. For me, I didn't need to do anything like that because the trades are already in there from Exuma Void's data pack. So I didn't have to go in and change much of this. What I did have to go in and change was the purchase item. So I changed it from being a player head. If you actually watch Hermitcraft, you'll know that the traditional player head or gym villagers, they trade player heads for custom player heads, and then they trade custom gems for the regular player head. So I changed that to be an emerald, and I wanted the trade to be 1 emerald. And then I had to come in here and I had to get the name of the particular Beyonder, and I had to get his personal data for his skull owner ID and the texture ID. And I got that by coming over to here, minecraftheads.com. We'll go to their main webpage here, and we want to go and click down here where it says Custom Heads Generator. And we're going to go ahead and type in a name. We're going to use my name here, Rocky Tiger. And we're going to use that as the skull name as well. This is what generates this bit of code for the name and the text of the name. So we'll go ahead and create a give code for that. And you'll see that it pops up this give code. So if I wanted to just use a give command in the game to give myself this head, then this is the code that I would just put in there, and that would pop out my head. Instead, what we want to do is we copy this. So I copy my name and we pop it over into this section right here. We come back, we grab the ID and we pop it over onto that next section right here. And when we grab the texture data and we pop it over into the value section right here. And you have to do that with every single player that you're trying to put a custom head into your game with. It takes a lot of time. So I created an Excel spreadsheet that has all of the different players and all of the different IDs and all of the different texture IDs for every single player on the BeyondVanilla server. So I was able to just copy and paste them all over and gradually replace the Hermitcraft players and the Hermits with myself and some of the other Beyonders. Again, changing every single one that says Emerald or from player head to where it says Emerald instead. It's a very tedious thing to do, but the people on the server wanted to have their custom heads in there and wanted the ability to purchase their custom heads, and so this was the easiest way that I could do it. So all of that results in this librarian here being summoned into the game. That's why he doesn't look around. He has no AI. When you click on him, he has these custom trades in there that allow us to purchase our different heads that we can then stick wherever it is that we want to. For example, there we go. Got my head right there. I think we're going to leave this right there. What's interesting, as I just noticed, is that now it just says player head. And that's interesting. I wonder. See, it still has all of this on here, and that has my name on it. But once I actually chop it up, it no longer has my name, it just says player head instead. So let's go ahead and give us another emerald. Let's take another look. Let's purchase my head. And now I have my head again, but if I put it down and dig it up, now that ends up removing that tag. So that's interesting. I don't know why it does that. Let's do a quick check and see. So that's an interesting bug, I guess. It seems that once you actually place the head and recover it, it no longer has your name on it anymore. So again, different things to try and figure out, but that's a problem for another day because I just don't have the time or energy to try and take care of it today, although that is a little bit annoying. We're going to go ahead and check these out because we don't want those. And last but not least of the admin type of things that I've been up to lately, the last couple of days that have kept me more or less off the server in any sort of actual enjoyable way, is something that a lot of the players were asking for, and so I decided that it was worth trying to do, and it seems like it's gone pretty well so far. And I did just release it out to all of the players here on the server, and that is installing Dynmap onto BeyondVanilla. And let me tell you, I think it's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. For those of you who don't know what Dynmap is essentially Google Maps for a Minecraft server. It's a web-based application that works in conjunction with a plugin that allows you to... Oh goodness. Run! He's gonna kill me. Or just ignore me. Basically, it lets players who are offline or just on a web browser look at the map of the entire world all the way out to the world border and see different builds, see different areas. You can even see where different players are, where they are online at different times, and it's just a pretty neat feature overall. People were asking for it, so I thought we'd give it a try. Not too difficult to set up. The only thing that was any sort of challenge was making sure that the ports were set up correctly, but once that got done, everything worked like a charm. It's been rendering the map for the last couple of days. The overworld flat map is pretty much done, and it's been busy and hard at work rendering the surface map, which is a really cool isometric look and isometric view of the server, I guess would be the best way to put it. It's an isometric view of everything, so it looks down at it from an angle. I think it's really, really neat. I think it's a cool addition to the server, and maybe at some point I'll even let other people look at it who aren't members of the server. But at least we'll go and take a look at it right now. Alright, so this is our Dynmap. Stands for dynamic map, and as you can see right now, I am right here on the edge of the gravel Tonka truck. That's what I'm going to keep on calling it. The dump truck shop, which is a really cool build. Zooming out, you can see the entirety of our world, our spawn island right here. And you got Mesa, you've got some snowy, I guess that's taiga all over the place down here. You have what looks like ice spikes that you can zoom into, and that's something that's really cool, is just the level of zooming that you can do. You've got the CN tower right there, which looks, you would never know from an above view what that is. You've got my rocket shop, you've got the dollar store, the bank, you've got the actual spawn point of the world. One thing to point out is that this is not centered on the map. Spawn is not centered on the map because the actual world spawn is right about here. It's a couple hundred blocks to the northeast. I really like the idea of a spawn island, so that's where I moved the world spawn to. You've got Phantom Maple somewhere down here. It looks like she is at her base, where she has her magnificent Trident farm over here, and everything else that's just floating above the ground. But what we really want to look at is see that all of this stuff stops at the world border, and as you can see, there are a lot of chunks that are still black, and this is mainly because no one has been out to these chunks yet. So there's still parts of the world that simply have not been explored. But what I really, really want to show you guys is if we go over here to the right side of the screen and we switch it over to a surface view, it shows this isometric view of the world itself, which I think is absolutely bonkers. You can see just how tall the CN tower really is in relation to everything else at spawn. You can see Facewrecker's ship, you can see Sheep's ship and Shipwreck Cove, you can see his cult building over here, you can see the Woolian towers, and you can still see that I'm standing right here at the edge of the Tonka truck, which is pretty awesome that I can zoom into that level. And again, of course, you have Maple, who is down here at her base, farming for tridents, is what I'm guessing she's been doing. Which does bring me to one other thing that I have been doing on the server. There's another issue with 1.14. It's a lighting issue, a skylight issue, where she built this massive farm just for getting tridents, a massive drowned farm, and because of a lighting issue in 1.14, even though this whole thing was covered, it was still showing as light level 15 throughout the entire of this. She's covered the whole thing in wool, and it still said light level of 14 or 15 in the water streams there. So another thing that I did have to do was run a force update as a Java startup command so that it would actually update the entirety of the server and basically delete the cache, so every single chunk had to get recalculated for light levels and everything else, which then caused this to darken up to where it was supposed to be, and she started getting drowned again and was able to open up her drowned shop, or Trident Shop, which is a beautiful build, kind of a ruined temple type of build that I'll go and show pretty much right now, because this is our Dyn map. I think it's pretty fancy, but let's hop back into the actual server now. So that's our map. That's awesome. I love it. It took a long time to get everything set up and to get everything rendered out to the point where I felt comfortable showing it. Finally released it to all of our players, and so far I think they're liking it. I hope they like it. If they don't, we can always get rid of it. But here is Maple's Trident Shop. I think she's actually partnering with another player with this, but this has become one of my favorite builds on the server. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love the lighting in it. I love the look of it with all of the quartz. Quartz usually isn't one of my favorite blocks, but this I think has turned out just absolutely beautiful. And of course, to actually go down to where you purchase everything, you have to hop down this water column into an underwater section where she's got tridents. Well, she had tridents for sale, aquatic armor enchantments, conduit kits, which I think oh, she's got more. Good for her. I thought I might have purchased the last one of those, and then trident enchantments as well. And it's awesome. It really is. And she got an ender chest in here now too. There wasn't one of those in here the other day. Just a really fantastic build, and I am in love with it. I think it might be, again, probably my favorite build on the server right now. She really got the kind of ruined temple look down. It just, like, you can tell exactly what it is without having to think about it. Why is everything all over the place? No, it's ruined. That's why. It's obvious it's ruined. So that's how I got my trident, Aqua Tiger's Might, because I am Aquaman, but not really. I'm Aqua Tiger, which of course I had to put Riptide on so I can use it as an Elytra launcher if I could do it right and time it right. But I can't time it right. Come on. For some reason, I'm holding my rockets like I would hold a trident. So let's try one more time. There we go. And we're flying. But that's what I've been up to. So with all of that, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.